Oh, hello everyone. This is Shining Noctiles, and tonight I figured it would be good to share a video, or kind of some thoughts that have been in my mind for a wee while now. Um, this video is something that I believe it's best to be spoken about, and I believe it's good to share indeed. So, I've been watching a lot of videos lately, particularly videos about anywhere between racial issues in Ireland or just even videos from the Irish pagan school. And I enjoy watching it. I've learned quite a bit from Laura and John, and they both have good hearts indeed, and I really do believe that. And I think that I've learned that in the comments section in a lot of these videos, fortunately there's a bit of I guess it's not the best source to to get info as it were, but I've noticed there's been a lot of comments, not going to call any names, but things such as, the Ireland is only for the Irish and just kind of a bunch of racial slurs, particularly towards those of African ancestry born in Ireland or living there. And so I think I'd like to talk about this because I think, as Laura mentioned in one of her videos, that being Irish has nothing to do with this white supremacy, neo-Nazi kind of ideology going around. And I think that's one reason why, for me in particular, considering, my life's journey, my past life and this life, I prefer to use the term to describe myself. And this is also to give respect to the Irish in Ireland, and not only the Irish, but also the Welsh and the Scottish to an extent. Um, I prefer to use the word Celtic Hart when describing myself or describing who I am. And unfortunately, a lot of times when I say Celtic Hart, people tend to just assign that term to only Ireland, which is a problem, unfortunately, because Celtic means so much more than just Irish. Yes, Ireland or the Irish are a Celtic tribe in a sense, but so are the Scottish, so are the Welsh, so are the Northwestern French. I think they're called um, I'd have to do more research on that. But I do know about the Galicians in northern Spain. I do know about them. I think there's also other Celtic tribes in northern Italy, and even tribes as far east as Turkey. So for me, Celtic Heart is more about unity rather than this isolation or exclusion, if you will, of people mm, not born of a certain isle, I guess. Maybe that's the proper way to say it. And I only say that because I believe in my past life. Um, of course, it'd probably be 700 years ago, very long time. My Celtic friends had, uh, it didn't matter if we had dark hair, blonde hair, red hair, brown hair, or different eye colors, or different skin tones. What united us was the good in our hearts. And I believe that, um, you know, these Celtic friends could have been what we know today as the Irish, or the Welsh, or the Scottish, or maybe even some Scandinavian friends who decided to join us together in unity. Um, and I think people have this misunderstanding of this misunderstanding of what it means to have a Celtic heart and or even I guess it could also be applied even to the Norse hearts or the some of the Scandinavians. Like I watch this YouTuber called Borge Andres Bohansen, and he's been under attack. I guess maybe his government or whatnot, or maybe even other people have essentially called him a racist just because of um, I guess just how he looks or things of that nature. And it's a shame that happens. Because to me, when I listen to him, he's just a Norse heart trying to express himself, or a Norwegian trying to express himself, a Norwegian heart. I guess he'd prefer. Hopefully, I'm respecting him in that way. But yeah, I think he probably preferred to be like that. And I think that when it comes to back to the Celtic Isles, when it comes to other nations other than the Irish, like the Scottish and the Welsh, I've had a lot of good experiences with the Welsh. In particular, I have a friend, his name is Ben. I won't mention his last name for privacy's sake. But his mum is Welsh, and he was one of my best friends in middle school. And remember, it was just him and I eating together, and then slowly but surely, more people came in. But it was originally just the two of us, and I remember when I would really go through hard times, he was always there for me. And his mum, of course, too. She was there as well, and it always just left a good experience for me about how deep his heart was. And I know he doesn't call himself Welsh. Like he's like, no, I'm just American. But his care at least reminded me of another Welsh friend that I have from Wales. Her name is Remy, and she made a comment one time when we were talking, and she said I was one of her brethren, and it really helped me feel accepted in that moment, that she said that, that just a sense of love there. And it just really helped more than you'll ever know. And the Welsh, they have some of the deepest hearts you ever know, at least the ones I've met, and even listening to their language and their music, it's quite beautiful. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I also had a Scottish or an Australian with Scottish ancestry, and I remember her name was Josephine. Again, I won't mention her last name for privacy's sake, but Josephine, she told me that, you and I are connected, and at first I was confused, and she said, no, you and I are connected. And I remember we were talked for a wee while, and I remember when I told her, I don't know if I remember the Celtic language, and she said, yes, you do, you just don't know it yet. And it just really spoke to me in that moment that she said that to me. It really, um, and she literally shouted it. Surprised no one said anything in the table. Um, it's quite interesting, isn't it? But yeah, no, I remember she said that, and it gave me strength and it gave me love in that moment. Um, Now as far as the Irish, back on the Isle that I was born in my past life. So I'm gonna try to see if I can find any physical person other than my spiritual mother, the Mar again, or well, there's the Celtic god Cernunno, so his legends are allegedly more told in Wales, but he's still Celtic nonetheless. Um, and then I'm gonna try to see how I can describe this. So, um, I did have one person from Ireland. We spoke for a wee while. Wasn't too long, but I remember he said, if you ever want to revisit Ireland, you're more than welcome to visit or revisit. And I think that unlike my friend Remy, he kind of struggled a bit more understanding, um, where I was coming from because I think he's probably, I'd imagine, not as spiritual. Um, though I would have to, or either that or he just doesn't believe in past lives, could be a number of different things. But yeah, no, I would say he struggled a wee bit understanding where it was coming from. And I think he may have misunderstood that when I said I had a past life in Ireland, I think he misunderstood it to be something about either me calling myself Irish or it was something odd. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but again, that's why I prefer using the term Celtic Hart because I know a lot of the Irish in particular, have had to deal a lot with Irish Americans who have used their um, heritage as a way to espouse hatred, which is a shame. It's a shame that, there are, Irish Americans, and I'm sure maybe even some Irish, unfortunately, who may use their ancestry as a sort of token to be a prick, I guess, or when I mean a prick, I mean, uh, saying, "Oh, look at me, I'm Irish, that means I'm better than everyone else, and I can be racist." And yeah, that's definitely that's not a good thing. And as Laura and probably many other Irish have said, this is definitely not something that really should be promoted because, I mean, if you even read about a sliver of Irish history and know about no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, you would think that people wouldn't would have some sense. It's, you know, it's kind of odd, isn't it? Yeah, it really is kind of odd in that way. Um, and I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, but what I am glad about that the Irish have done recently is during COVID, they sent some money to the Navajo and Hopi people, the Native Americans, and in America. So I believe it's in the southwestern part. And when they asked the Irish, why did you decide to help us? The Irish, said, well, you helped us when no one else did. And I think this is a beautiful thing because, you have these people here saying, the Irish is only for the Irish. Yet, the Native Americans were willing to send money to those starving Irish, to my people, to my brethren, to my spiritual brethren, even when their lands were being invaded. Think about that. Think about that. That'd be very similar to if, if even if the Celts were being invaded by the British, the Celts, still sending, food to the starving British, that takes a lot of heart, that takes a lot of heart, and I think that. Um, there has to be a sense of humility there because, the Irish, they did immigrate to the land of the Americas and they did settle here. And, they did call this place home. And I think what people have to understand is, um, regardless of what's happened in the past, the Native Americans have still been able to see the good in the Irish, and I think that's a beautiful thing, and I'm glad there's that healing there. But I think you know, seeing the common struggles, and there's actually a sculpture of the Native Americans and Irish, in Cork, and the sculpture says kindred spirits, which I think is a beautiful thing. I think if only more Irish knew about this, even just this small story, I think it would lower the level of arrogance. I think that level of arrogance there, because if someone is helping you when you're starving and your brothers and sisters are dying out of starvation, it doesn't matter what the person looks like or where they come from. If they have a good heart, they have a good heart, and I hope you can understand that. If you can't, then I hope you can find your way eventually. But it's something that I think you have to really consider, you know. Um, and so yeah, I think there's a lot of things that need to be cleared up, and I think that's why we have to acknowledge these things and um, not just get on our high horses, I guess. Um, but yeah, no, I think for me, you know, no, I, I actually have I actually do have a friend who does have Irish ancestry in America. Who her name is Dolly, and I remember she sent me like a bingo card about essentially some common characteristics of what I say, and one of them was heart, of course, and it really stuck with me. It really did, and she has a good heart deep down, and I think that if there's one positive image of an Irish American I can think about, I would probably say her. She would probably be it, even though I think she considers herself more Cajun. So I wouldn't want to disrespect her in that wouldn't want to disrespect her in that regard. But I think that it's probably the culture she more identifies with. I think. Um, and then I have another friend, who uh, his online name is Xavier, and he and I tend to get along. He again, like I wouldn't really say he's Irish. I can, I mean, I, I, I'm only laughing because, you know, I can definitely see what the Irish are talking about in Ireland about this topic. But regardless, you know, he, and again, I think this is mainly out of ignorance. I don't think he does it out of malice, uh, but I think one time he said something about his drinking habits was due to being part Irish or something, some kind of nonsense. But it's whatever, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't really blame your drinking habits because you're part Irish or part whatever. Yeah, I don't. think that's a really good way to go at it. But yeah, nonetheless, he has a fairly decent heart, and he means well for the most part, which is a good thing. Now I do have a friend. His name is Joel. I'm not going to mention his last name again for privacy's sake. Um, and so with him, I actually live in North Idaho, and he's one of my friends I've met up here. And I think, uh, I think with him, he made this comment about visiting Ireland, and this was after he was kind of a wee bit confused because he looked at me, I say I have a Celtic heart, and he, I guess, was confused because I guess he thought. And again, I'm glad Laura is, you know, trying to un un disentangle or inform, maybe. I'm trying to see what the right word is, but anyways, he had this idea that I guess maybe Irish just had red hair, pale skin, and freckles, and blonde hair and blue eyes, even though he himself doesn't really fit those boxes. It's kind of odd. uh, in the sense that you know, I, I, I was trying to tell him that Celtic people can look, and again, I use the word Celtic, not just Irish, because I see myself having a Celtic heart. And again, my friend Ben, as an example, he has jet black hair, jet black eyebrows and dark eyes. And so I told him that Celtic people don't just have red hair, freckles, or blonde hair, blue eyes. They can also have, they can come in a variety of different colors or, hair colors or skin colors. And this is also coming from a person that claims he's part Apache or part Native American, which, in a sense, it'd be a wee bit odd if he's using this argument, because imagine the Apaches do that with him. He probably wouldn't like that so much. But regardless, I think he's not really doing it out of malice as much as it is just ignorance. And he has a good heart deep down, he does. But I noticed that this was something that I had to help him with because and then this could be just he's just not been exposed to enough cultures or enough. I mean, technically he's been to different states a couple times, like Ohio and I think maybe Arizona or New Mexico. But for the whole, I think he's mainly stayed here in Idaho. And Idaho is a great place. I believe it's been a good home for me, and I'm glad I've been accepted into this land, and I'm thankful for that. But I do notice here a lot of people struggle with just different kinds of people, and I think I can count on and this it's a wee bit sad. I mean, you know, people can live where they want, of course, but I could probably count on my fingertips. For example, how many African Americans I've seen here. Whereas, when I lived in Florida, it was pretty much normal to see people of all different kinds and of all different backgrounds and stuff. And again, there's nothing wrong with people looking more alike as long as they mean well. The only problem is if people st start just kind of being bigoted regardless of what they look like, really. I think that's the crux of the issue. Um, so but I think you know he'll get there in time. And so for me, I feel like that I'd like to eventually revisit Ireland again because I feel like that when I go again, instead of it being a negative experience, I believe it'll be a positive one. And I've been thinking about maybe revisiting Donegal, Ireland, and going there again. I believe it'll be a much better experience, and I hope to further the healing with the O'Donnells in that way, as I already have been spiritually, thankfully. Um, and for there to be forgiveness there and healing and things like that. So I'm gonna try to see how I can explain this. Let's see here. I've also been doing some healing with the English as well, because and before anyone decides to write something negative or hateful in the comments, I know that the history with the English and the Anglo-Saxons, haven't been the best for our people throughout the centuries, but we have to also acknowledge that we weren't perfect ourselves and that the Celts, including the Irish, have made mistakes, and we have to acknowledge that. Um, and that doesn't, of course, absolve what's, the English or the Saxons have done, but it also doesn't absolve or uh, what the Irish have done either to their own people, more specifically. If you look at the Catholic Church and you look at how many families and people were unaccepted or even put to the sword or their lives ended, including myself, in my past life, for being a pagan and not a Catholic, um, then it can show that even the Irish have a lot of work to do in that regard, a lot of healing that needs to be done. But regardless of that, we all make mistakes, and we all, including ourselves, and we have to learn how to heal and forgive others, including ourselves, to work with that. And so, with the English, or those who connect with Anglo-Saxon heritage, I have a friend in England. Her name is Laura. I'm not going to mention her last name, but her name is Laura. And Laura has a very good heart, and she means well. Um, she connects with me on a deep level in the sense that, uh, she has a good heart and she's a good friend, and um, I remember this lifetime when I did my DNA test. Uh, I looked at all of it, and the one thing I struggled with the most was of course, my friend, the Bruce Fumi struggled with this as well, but he's still Scottish, regardless of that. That's the important thing. But I got, a fair amount of English, and I remember I wasn't too happy about that. I'll have to admit that. I know, Bruce wasn't either, but I remember I told that to Laura, and Laura just told me, just remember to ultimately accept who you are. And at that moment, there was a lot of love and healing there because I think that, you know, even though at first, like, it was tough to accept that, in this life that there was, DNA that was connected to those who were once my enemies. I think in hindsight, I think it was a good thing, if only because it allowed me to heal with them. Like it allowed me to heal with Laura, and with my dad's wife Julie. It allowed me to heal with them. Yeah, and I think that they both have good hearts deep down, and I think that you know I think, I wouldn't want like I have a friend, her name is Barry and she's Welsh. But I remember she told me the story about how the IRA came to her village, either in Wales or when she moved to England, and they pretty much started smashing car windows and things like that, and it frightened her. And they told her, essentially how much they hated the English. And it was kind of sad that she had to experience that because, she's kind of like our brethren, the Welsh are. And it's sad that she had to go through that, even though she wasn't a part of it. And I know my friend Ben told me that, just because, from his perspective, just because um something happened in the past, you shouldn't still hold that unhealthy grudge, towards the people of today if they aren't causing that harm anymore. And I agree with him. I agree with him. I think there has to be healing there. There has to be healing. And I know that Northern Ireland is still, a place of contention because, to some Irish, they believe that that land was kind of taken away from them by the British. And I can understand that, but I feel that taking out your anger towards those who aren't directly involved, um, innocent civilians or even your brothers, your Welsh brothers, or anyone else for that matter. That's a problem. That's a problem. That's a problem, I think. I believe there's a healthier way to handle that, I believe, than going than using those methods. And so I um I'm trying to see where what else I was gonna say. So I watched a video recently of the Dalai Lama, and there was an Irishman and a British soldier, and essentially the Irishman, um, you know, he essentially told Charles, that's what the Scottish British soldier's name was. He told, what happened was, when he was a wee lad, he got blinded in the eye by a rubber bullet by Charles. And when Charles did that, he had a sense of horror and dread of what he did. Then fast forward many years later, they meet they meet each other again, and the Irishman, no longer a lad, told Charles that he was no longer, not, even when he got blinded in the eye with a rubber bullet, not, he didn't have a moment of anger for his essentially his brother, for Charles. And in that moment, it really just, um, it was a really beautiful thing. It was a really beautiful thing that he could forgive him, even if, he lost his eyesight because, as the Dalai Lama told him, um, or either him or someone else told him that you may feel like you don't have sight, but you see a lot better than most others do. And the reason why they said that was because of how he could see with his heart and not be blinded by hatred or anger. And so when he forgave Charles, and they shared their story with a bunch of Tibetans, it was a beautiful thing. It was really a beautiful thing. And it speaks volume. It speaks volume of the love of the Celtic heart still there. And so I feel like if there would be anyone that I would consider Irish or consider Celtic, or an Irishman that is also Celtic, I would, or has a Celtic heart, I would definitely say that Irishman definitely, is that Celtic Hart that I would respect indeed, and hopefully many others would as well. But yeah, I felt like it was good to share this because and I'll see if I can put the documentary in the description below if anyone wants to watch. It's a beautiful documentary indeed. But anyways, hope you all take care. Hope you all enjoyed watching the video and have a good rest of the evening. Slán go fóill. Bye for now. Bye for now.